is Andrew, and welcome to my Rogerian presentation. So, the topic I have today is, should competitive video games integrate luck into their core game design? Now, to better illustrate this, I have an example set up here. So, let's say you and your friends decide to get together and play a game of soccer. Now, let's say at random points in time that random teammates will get random handicaps. Let's say one of them has to put on a blindfold, two of your teammates have to wear handcuffs, or even change the soccer ball into a beach ball at random points. Now, if you were to imagine, this could actually sound like pretty fun, to be honest, but let's put into the context of a cash prize, pride on the line, or even your career as a soccer player on the line. Suddenly, you're not too happy about losing that game where even though you might be the best soccer player out on that field, you lost because of all these handicaps weighing you down. Now, that's the kind of situation we're talking about today, where should luck exist in these sort of competitive games? And when it comes to the agreed on points, the absolute most important thing is video games are meant to be enjoyed by the players. And a quote from Robert Zubek from The Elements of Game Design, essentially saying that players will always have primary control over the outcome of the game. So these are the two main points that really tie in both sides of the argument, where no matter what, the players should be enjoying themselves when they play, and they have the greatest factor into the game's outcome. When it comes to supporting ideas for the luck side, we have two theories: push your luck theory and regret. The push your luck theory is best applied to something like blackjack, where you have the option of ending your turn right now or sticking longer to try and improve, but you have the risk of losing everything. As for regret, basically, it kind of ties into how players psychologically always want to go for the least regretful decision. To best illustrate this, let's say we have two cups, a red one and a blue one. Now let's say that there is $5 under one of them. You don't know where the $5 is, but whichever cup you choose, if it has the $5, you get to keep it. Now imagine after choosing your cup, the game lets you switch your choice if you want, before you get to take a look. Most players actually would say no deal. They would actually keep their first option, mainly because it's a 50-50 chance no matter what you choose, and players would rather be wrong rather than know that their original answer was correct and they swapped away from it. And this is important because this is theoretically saying that luck is avoidable in games, even though it exists inside it. So that kind of shows that, hey, we can put luck into our games, but it's up to you if you want to use it. Now, to continue forth with this, we have success and accessibility. More often than not, a lot of these games incorporate luck heavily into the design, and that's mainly because it increases accessibility for them. In this situation, accessibility basically means allowing low skill players to compete with high skill players. Because there's so much increase in uncertainty and randomness, it basically bridges the gap between low and high skill and allowing for more players to play, aka accessibility. Now, for the other side of the spectrum, we have opposing ideas. Against luck in this case, we have game balance. Now, when it comes to winning games, it should be mainly because of the player's skill, along with things like randomness and luck. But that randomness and luck should have no effect or any relation to the game's original conditions. So to better illustrate this, let's say we have a game of chess. At no point whatsoever should, let's say black side gets 3 knights at the beginning of the game. There should be no rationale for why this should be occurring. Because obviously if that was the case, people get pretty upset. And this is the same thing with luck, because if the luck that is built into the game is meant to give an unfair advantage to one side, then it breaks the game balance. Finally, we have the elements of chance. Randomness is not created equal. The type of luck that is implemented into these games must be able to maintain competitive integrity. So what does that really mean here? So let's take a look at something like poker. If I were to ask you, is poker a luck-based game or a skill-based game? Honestly, it'd be pretty hard to decide, but the answer in this case is actually both. And let me explain how. So if you were to play only a few amount of rounds, then this means that whatever hand that you get dealt is the hand that you get dealt. So if you luck out in those few rounds, you just win. If you didn't, then too bad. Now imagine we increase the amount of rounds. At this point, everyone should kind of have the same average amount of winning hands. And at that point, we incorporate a different skill set into this game, where your knowledge of how to maximize your money is what pushes you over the edge against the other players. So you have now turned a luck based game into a skill based game, just dependent on the number of rounds. Now, the problem with this is that not all competitive games can hold this model. Because not all games can expand enough rounds to justify and balance out the luck represented in its natural design, it's important that when you apply these mechanics that they're still able to hold true whether it's a short amount of rounds or a lot of rounds. So as for drawbacks, let's look at one of the more current solutions that game developers are using. And that's just kind of bluntly attempting to balance luck and skill, or just focusing on either luck or skill. And honestly, it's it's a rather intuitive approach, but often it kind of causes you to trip on your own feet because sometimes they just don't work well together, with obviously all the points that we mentioned prior. And the main other point is what makes a game enjoyable is subjective to every person. Some enjoy more random and luck, some enjoy more balance and skill. And a lot of games just tend to cater to one side or the other. When it comes to solutions, the solution I like to propose is that games should release both a casual and competitive mode to their game. So honestly, a lot of games actually have these differing modes, but these games are literally the exact same thing, except the people who play them are just different. And what I mean by that is, in the casual mode, more relaxed players will join, but in the competitive one, more hardcore players will join. But the solution I'm trying to offer is that the casual mode should literally be incorporating things like luck and fun, crazy ideas to liven things up, while the competitive mode should be where they eliminate the luck and allow players to fully focus on what they want to do. This allows people to enjoy the game in their own personal way, but also doesn't prevent anyone from hopping over to the other side whenever they please. This is really popular in games like Smash Bros, where in official tournaments, they actually churn off the items that usually spawn inside the game. And the reason for that is to just not provide an unfair advantage. But there's no reason that you and your friends can't play with those items. It's just that when people play seriously together in high level tournaments, they have to turn those off. And this is actually a human applied rule. This is not just a thing done by the game. It's just a rule that was created by humans. And I think that actually applies really strongly to this situation. And these are my references, and thank you for listening.